Hello, my name is Annabel Harsing, and today we'll be talking about doing a literature review. But how do you go about finding the literature? What are the different sources of literature that you can refer to? Well, first of all, if we look at the sources of literature that are available, books are a very good source. You will find that in many cases, books are seminal works and they offer a much broader canvas than an article. And this is only logical because a book might have anywhere between 100 and 500 pages, where an article typically only is between 10 and 20 pages, so much more limited in scope. You can also look at edited books. Edited books on a particular topic, if this is the topic of your research, can provide a very useful overview from many different sources and many different authors and often many different contexts. But be careful because the quality of individual contributions might vary quite dramatically. So also look at the publishers of the book to get a sense of the quality of the book overall and the quality of the editing process. Then obviously journals are a big source of literature in most of the social sciences. So use the library to do a catalog search and a search for particular journals that in many cases your supervisor might have recommended to you. Again, if you can't find the journal in question, then simply use interlibrary loans. They are very quick these days. However, in addition to books and journals, there are also other sources. You might look at government and industry sources. I actually have a very useful list of links on my website. And for instance, if you're working in international business, the UNCTAD World Investment Report provides a wealth of statistics on international trade and investment. But this might be the case in any area of business and management and economics. Then obviously there's the internet, source of a vast amount of information, but as we all know, anyone can put anything on the web. So be careful and make sure that you actually source academic literature. However, there are a number of sources on the internet, such as Google Scholar, Microsoft Academic, Crossref, all databases, all sources of data that can be very useful sources of academic work going beyond the library catalog. Then finally, and we'll talk about this a bit more in the next couple of slides, look at working papers or conference papers. These are incredibly important because you might not realize this, but by the time a paper or a book is published, the research included in it might actually be 3 to sometimes even 10 years old. That might sound incredible, but yes, the delays in doing and writing up the research and then the whole publication process are such that anything you read in a journal article or a book is already out of date in a sense. So now we know that books and journal articles might not be the most up-to-date source of information. What are we looking at to get the most up-to-date research? Well, first of all, working papers and what we call preprints. They're also sometimes called research papers or discussion papers. These are in fact drafts forms of papers that are intended for ultimate publication in journal articles, but they usually contain more detailed source data than is available in published form, so they are especially useful for PhD students. They are really important in economics, and many economists will publish working papers on sources such as SFRN or REPEC. Google Scholar is a data source that actually covers working papers as well. So if you search in Google Scholar, you will also find working papers and thus find the most up-to-date research. Many academics also include preprints of accepted papers on, for instance, ResearchGate or their own website. And these are usually papers that are already accepted for journals, but haven't really been published in print yet. If you go to the slides for this session, you can click on a link and you can see how I do this on my own website. But many academics do this on ResearchGate. So ResearchGate is a really good source of working papers and preprints as well. So the second source of really up-to-date research is conference papers. They are really a crucial source of information. And I actually cannot stress this enough, because someone might be working on exactly the same topic as you are in your PhD and might in fact preempt your work. And academic research these days is incredibly global. So saying, sorry, but I didn't know about this research will not impress the reviewers or your examiners. It doesn't mean they will fail your thesis, but at the very least, they will ask you in the revisions to incorporate this work in your final version and explain how your work adds to this. So knowing about these sources in advance is a big advantage. So you don't want to do this at the stage of submission or after your viva. So what I would do is I would identify maybe the 3 or 4 key conferences in your field. You can obviously ask your supervisors for tips on this and try and attend at least one of these every year. Obviously, it makes sense to maybe try different ones in the first and the second and the third year of your PhD. These days, you're very lucky in that many conferences are now available virtually. So you can attend conferences even if you're not able to travel to the destination, which obviously is quite time consuming and costly. So for the conferences that you cannot go to yourself, try and get access to the conference proceedings. You might want to ask maybe a colleague who has gone to the conference, ask your supervisors. If you cannot get access to the proceedings, and oftentimes they're also available online, but sometimes only for the people who've actually registered for the conference. So find someone who's actually attended the conference. But if you cannot find the papers through any of these avenues, then simply write to the authors of the paper and ask whether they are willing to share the conference paper with you. Some of them might never even respond. Others might say, I'd rather not because we're still working on the paper, but you can always try. If you don't ask, you don't get.